Basu Godin Notebook. 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 Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Basu and Godin Notebook on this November 4th. Arpin, this is the first Monday of the month, which means that this is going to be the first Monday where this episode is exclusively for our paid subscribers of the Notebook. Everybody can listen to the first few minutes, but at some point, the non-subscribers, well, we'll have to say goodbye to them. So,
yeah. So, just a reminder: if this does cut off at a time that is not agreeable to you, you can always go to basuandgodin.com and subscribe for a paid subscription, and that way you will get the entire Monday episode and the Friday episode, which remains free for everyone. You can still get that in its entirety for free. But this episode, from now on, we're not going to do this announcement every Monday, but the Monday episodes from now on will be behind a paywall. So basuandgodin.com if you want to upgrade your subscription to a paid one, either monthly or yearly. We'll give you access to everything that we do.
So switching to November means that, the Canadiens have finished their first month of the season. It's good opportunity, I guess, to look into how things have been overall. And today, Martin Saint-Louis was talking after practice how he considered that his team was in a transitional stage, and he himself as a coach was also in the transitional stage and trying to go from more of a academic or teaching approach to trying to exert some results out of them. But this has proven very difficult for this team so far this year. And it's when you one of the things is St. We said that he acknowledges the fact that their offense has taken a step back because they're trying so much to fix their defense. But you look at it, I mean, this team, I'm sure that Martin Saint-Louis doesn't want to stifle his offense, but really the onus right now is put on risk management. And it's been a theme, or it's becoming a theme based on what we've seen in the first month of the season.
Yeah. And that's, when he says that we're going from a development stage to a learning how to win stage, that's what he's talking about. And when he did that whole thing with his hands and doing the seesaw, and the seesaw is going to go like this, and we want to get it like this. I mean, it's really what you're talking about. Like, it seems like it's one extreme or the other right now for the Canadiens. Either they're a totally irresponsible risk-taking machine, or they're a sterile, Borg-like, risk-free kind of machine. And that's the version we saw on Saturday. Is, it was drilled into them so much that they need to control risk, not completely eliminate risk, but to calculate risk, to make sure that there's something worthwhile on the other side of that risk, is something that Marty always emphasizes. And he's right, like whenever you take a risk, the reward has to be worth it, right? So that's the calibration they're working on, and they're still not there, because it's what happened in the third period in Washington was not good in that regard. And what happened in the first two periods in Pittsburgh, and even really the whole game, because Pittsburgh, the Penguins seemed to decide that they're just going to sit on that lead in the third period and sat back a lot, and managed risk a lot, and put pucks deep and made the Canadiens go 200 feet to get offense. Doing a lot of the things that Marty's been trying to emphasize to his team to do. But that was the total opposite end of the spectrum from the third period in Washington, where they were taking no risks, whether they were worth it or not. So at some point they'll get to a happy medium.
On Friday, you were talking about Lane Hudson. You were describing a play where that led to Suzuki's goal against Washington, and that goes into it because there was even more of that against Pittsburgh, where he's not holding on to the puck too much because there's again that risk management.
Yeah, it's not the version of Lane Hudson that you want to see, right? But it's it speaks to his coachability. It speaks to his willingness to stick to a game plan. and be disciplined in that. Every time Lane Hudson touches the puck, he wants to do something with it. He wants to make something happen. And he fought that temptation so hard on Saturday. Listen, we don't have access to Sportlogic's data, but I would imagine that was his lowest time of possession in the offensive zone that we've seen from him all season, if not, well, basically his entire career, going back to the last 2 games last season. Didn't want to hang on to the puck for too long, moved it, made some smart plays, kept things going, but definitely a far more conservative version of Lane Hudson, and not the optimal version of Lane Hudson that you're going to see. But that's just an example. I think a lot of the offensive guys felt compelled to rein it in a little bit, sort of handcuff their offensive instincts and stick to what Marty was looking for. And at some point, they can creep that back to where they can. Like, I think it was an important night in the sense that the message seems to have finally gotten through in that regard. It got through too much, I think, but you prefer that and then dial it back a little bit than keep having to say the same thing and not have them do it. So we'll see what this week brings, because this week, I think will be about finding the equilibrium where take a risk. If it leads to offensive situations, then go ahead and take that risk, and have everyone on the ice aware that that's a situation where you can take a risk, so that if it does go the other way, there's an ability to recover from it, and it doesn't automatically turn into a puck that winds up in the back of your net, which I think has been another issue, is that some of the risks are not predictable to the other people on the ice, and they turn into like glaring odd man situations. And if their risk is predictable and all the players know the situations in which those risks are going to come, you can compensate for that risk. You can have some people think, okay, well, if this goes bad, I need to be in a certain spot. And that's been another issue so far, is that those risks have not been compensated for by the other players on the ice.
When you say that we're going to see what the next this coming week has to offer, I don't know if our listeners have seen the lines at practice on Monday morning, but it was pretty telling in that sense, because so Kirby Dach was back with Caulfield and Suzuki, but Jake Evans was centering the second line with Alex Newhook and Uri Slavkovsky. So I don't think that Evans ever had a winger of Slavkovsky's profile as a line mate before. But Martin St. Louis was asked, well, what do you like about Evans in the number 2 hole like that? And he said, I like the fact that he provides offense responsibly. So again, this is a guy where they're holding back, they're keeping it very, very tight, knowing that the what's most important right now is to figure out their defensive game. And once they got that mastered or at least under control, then they can focus a bit. No, far from that. Yeah. Then they can focus more on the offense. But it's funny because we heard Martin St. Louis during training camp say exactly the same thing. He said, well, we focused a lot on our defense, and then we're going to start focusing on our offense. But the minute that they lost sight, or they stopped worrying about the defense, it all fell apart. So those first 12 games, I think, are a testament of where the team is defensively. The road that that it still has to go as a team to figure things out, and it will require a lot of patience, because the results offensively are not going to follow necessarily right away.
They're not going to compensate. They're not going to make up for the mess defensively that the Canadiens are. Like, they're a mess. They're a defensive mess. They were better on Saturday, but generally, if we're talking about the first month of the season, what defined the first month of the season for the Montreal Canadiens is they are a defensive mess. Mm-hmm. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the National Hockey League, if not the worst. They've really. That was the identity of the first month. They have to make it so that their identity is different in the second month.